Hello, and thank you so much for taking the time out to listen. This is a continuation of the audio that I put together, Show Yourself Friendly, and I got into the contract with Black America since at the time of this audio recording, there was a lot of controversy being stirred up because Ice Cube was reaching out and talking with Trump about issues that he wanted, as well as so many other Black Americans wanted to be addressed. The backlash was that there were those individuals who felt like he was making a deal with the devil, so to speak. Then, on the other end, what folks didn't know when the story first broke out was that Ice Cube had also reached out to the Biden administration as well. Now, this contract with Black America is not something that Ice Cube had come up with. And in the previous audio, I named the individuals who started this contract with Black America soon after the George Floyd, just all things related to George Floyd, because you know, of course, that he had been murdered. But there were so many things surrounding that man's death that pretty much opened up a can of worms. And so this contract with Black America had been birthed, but it didn't get as much attention because there were so many other things that was happening in media that was shadowing what exactly was this contract with Black America. So the previous audio, I went over many of the things that was in that contract, but I wanted to emphasize how you have to show yourself friendly when you're reaching out to individuals and you want them to do some things for you, no matter if you're black, white, red, or yellow. Going off on people, calling them a bunch of names, talking about what you don't like about them, and then turning around and then asking them for things. People are going to remind you of what you said and what you did. So I'm one of those individuals who I say that if you can help yourself, don't go back to anybody who is abusive, anybody who's controlling, toxic, what have you, and ask them for anything. You better learn how to figure things out without those people and find a new network, okay? Find a new network. Too many people do this sort of thing. They want things and then they go back and then they wonder how come folks don't want to help them, because people don't forget the times when this one insulted them, that one hurt them, and all of this other stuff. Well, first and foremost is God says that you're to lean on Him. You're to trust in Him. When you don't have a spiritual compass, you end up going to Pharaoh. You end up going back to the ex. You find yourself on your hands and knees begging somebody to please, baby, please, baby, please. But when you are a grown woman or a grown man, you're able to stand on your own 2 feet. You're able to speak the truth. And what gives you most peace is to know that I don't need the abuser. I don't need the controlling one. I don't need the toxic one. I'm able to do these things on my own or with a new network, you see. And some of you all, if you follow the paths that all lead to Trump, you're going to see, if you've had your share of experiences with narcissists, you're going to see what happens, and it's not going to be pretty. The Platinum Plan, President Trump's pillars: opportunity by achieving historic employment levels for Black Americans, as well as increasing access to capital for new businesses. President Trump has been committed to ensuring all Black Americans can achieve the American dream. Security. By signing into law the celebrated First Step Act, President Trump has brought common sense criminal justice reform to the American people for the first time in decades, while ensuring that our streets and communities are safe for families and business owners. Did that really happen? When I took a look at the First Step Act, here's an overview, and you can go to www.bop.gov/inmates/FSA/overview.jsp, and the header is Federal Bureau of Prisons, an overview of the First Step Act. On December 21st, 2018, President Trump signed into law the First Step Act, which is FSA of 2018, PL 115-391. The act was the culmination of a bipartisan effort to improve criminal justice outcomes, as well as to reduce the size of the federal prison population, while also creating mechanisms to maintain public safety. In the First Step Act, it requires the Attorney General to develop a risk and needs assessment system to be used by BOP to assess the recidivism risk and criminogenic needs of all federal prisoners, and to place prisoners in recidivism reducing programs and productive activities to address their needs and reduce this risk. Under the Act, the system provides guidance on the type, amount, and intensity of recidivism reduction programming and productive activities to which each prisoner is assigned, including information on which programs prisoners should participate in based on their criminogenic needs. And if you want to read more about the First Step Act, you can. Basically, individuals are going to receive more assistance than what they have already received, which has been criticized profusely. But there are correctional reforms that are mentioned in the First Step Act, sentencing reforms. There are things that are specific in terms of what the Attorney General is expected to do. So it is definitely one of those things where it doesn't mention African Americans. It's just talking about, in general, prisoners, okay, the inmates and their families. Prosperity is another point in the Platinum Plan. As the first president to provide long-term funding for historically black colleges and universities, this administration continues to seek immediate and generational advancement for black Americans. Fairness, as demonstrated through his actions to initiate investment into opportunity zones, as well as address health disparities, wage gaps, and necessary education reforms. President Trump works every day to advance a fair and just America for the black community. So pretty much, they're just reiterating what has already been said on campaign trails. And as far as the opportunity zones are economically distressed communities defined by individual census tract, nominated by America's governors and certified by the U.S. Secretary of the Treasury. Moving on, President Trump's promise to Black America over 4 years. Increase access to capital in black communities by almost $500 billion, 3 million new jobs for the black community, creating 500,000 new black-owned businesses, increase access to capital in black communities by almost $500 billion, safe urban neighborhoods with highest policing standards, commit to working on a Second Step Act, access to better education and job training opportunities, give black churches the ability to compete for federal resources for their community, bring better and tailored health care to address historic disparities, immigration policy that protects American jobs, advance home ownership opportunities, and enhance financial literacy in the black community, onshoring manufacturing to advance jobs and develop opportunities for black-owned businesses. So there is specifics that are mentioned under each header. So if you do want to take a look at that, you can. One of the things that I will tell you that I am curious about is this access to capital for black-owned businesses. So I will highlight some of this because I do know that some of you all, you have your dreams, right? You feel like God is moving you in a different direction, which is to no longer be someone else's employee. So this just might be very important to you. Increase opportunities for small business lending and technical assistance through community development financial institutions in order to grow business and create generational wealth opportunities with over $400 billion in lending. Examine alternative ways to build credit, including rent, utilities, and phone bills. Make the Minority Business Development Agency permanent. Appoint its leader to the Assistant Secretary of Commerce level. Create a sub-office of African American Affairs and engage with private sector advisors to ensure real-world plans and solutions. Increase the number of Black-owned contracting businesses, financial service entities, and private equity investment funds through regulatory reform and up to $40 billion in government funding alongside traditional private investment. Advance lending relationships with financial institutions, particularly those businesses who weren't able to participate in PPP. Host senior executives from major financial institutions on a quarterly basis to advance new and equitable lending programs for Black communities. Okay, so summarize, you pretty much know that these are the things that are on the table. But how will you gain access? What exactly will you have to do? You got to start somewhere, and whatever resources are in your area in terms of giving you the step-by-step process in getting your business from start to finish is what you look into. I also have a CD and I have a book that talks about the basic fundamentals in terms of getting that idea of yours on paper and then off into the places that where your idea needs to be viewed, needs to be looked at, needs to be tweaked. So there is information even in a number of my description boxes about a step-by-step, simple, very basic way of taking those ideas and having some type of outline to start off with. And then from there, before long, you may be opening up your doors to getting your business opened and ready to go. Now, the Biden administration, the request was made in terms of what is it that you all are going to do for the Black community. And it turns out that this apparently was something that was filed away according to the date on this document, September 7th, 2020. This was before Ice Cube was out there talking about this contract. And then even before Ice Cube was talking about the contract, there was already the contract written up in summary, available for people to download soon after the George Floyd tragic situation that took place. So, I mean, this has been around. Anyway, the 2-pager on Biden-Harris economic proposals for the African American community policy, Black business / entrepreneur support. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris believe we have to improve access to capital for Black entrepreneurs and business owners. To accomplish this, they will start by leveraging $150 billion in new capital and opportunities, $30 billion government funding, $120 billion from private sector, including spurring $50 billion in lending, venture capital, and other supports for entrepreneurs in struggling areas. Make the new markets tax credit permanent and increase funding to $5 billion annually to provide a credit for equity investment in small businesses that benefit low and moderate income areas. Expand the role of community development financial institutions in underserved communities by doubling their direct funding so that they can offer both microloans to small startups and larger loans to existing small businesses who have the capacity to grow. Encourage more lenders to provide loans to Black and brown businesses by strengthening and expanding the Community Reinvestment Act to apply to more lenders and ensure that lenders invest in all communities. Commit to equalizing federal procurement by expanding contracting opportunities and technical assistance for small disadvantaged businesses, reform opportunity zones to fulfill their promise by incentivizing them to partner with nonprofit or community-oriented organizations, home ownership, create a $15,000 down payment tax credit that allows home buyers to access it when they make their purchase instead of waiting to receive the assistance when they file taxes the following year, spur the construction of 1.5 million homes and public housing units. Student debt, forgiving undergraduate tuition debt from public colleges and private HBCUs and MSIs for Americans earning up to $125,000. Invest over $70 billion in HBCUs and MSIs. Healthcare, protect and build on Obamacare with a new public health insurance option that wouldn't tie your healthcare to your job. Infrastructure jobs. $2 trillion plan to build sustainable infrastructure and clean energy economy. Create 5 million manufacturing innovation jobs in infrastructure, auto, energy. Upgrade 4 million buildings, weatherize 2 million homes, build 1.5 million sustainable homes, 100% carbon pollution-free power by 2035, and frontline cities get 40% of EJ benefits. Okay. This is pretty much on both, coming from both administrations, the Trump Platinum Plan, as well as the Biden-Harris economic proposals for the African American community. These are the summaries. These are the things that African Americans wanted to hear about. But of course, you know, you're not going to believe anything until you start to be impacted by it. And the average African American is not a business owner, and to be quite honest, is not interested in starting up any type of business. You know, when you've got enough issues going on in your personal life, professional life, what have you, the last thing you need is a headache. And a lot of times starting up a business is a big headache. Okay. That's not knocking anyone who wants to do this sort of thing, because, hey, I'm one of those who I would love to start a business myself, since I already have the experience from just working with small business and having my own businesses over the years, okay, as a freelancer. But is this really going to be beneficial, you see? I mean, is there going to be a trickle-down effect where, you know, people are going to be shouting from the rooftop saying, hey, they finally get me, they finally understand, okay? There are things in the Biden proposal that are missing, okay? You know, there's nothing mentioned about police, you see. What are some other things that aren't missing, or that are not, you know, listed? You know, it's not real specific in terms of the education opportunities, you know, the things that are prosperous in terms of the Black community. When I looked back at the Trump Platinum Plan, there's a header on the second page that talks about prosperous Black communities. And what's mentioned is champion federal policy reforms to advance home ownership initiatives, which is the same as what the Democrats have mentioned briefly. Partner with local leaders in Black communities to ensure maximum federal support for neighborhood revitalization. That is key, because the local leaders in the Black communities know better than anyone else because they live there. Okay, they, you know, are on the struggle bus. They are listening to, you know, the heartache and the headache coming from locals. All right. Make Juneteenth a national holiday. That's interesting. Prosecute the KKK and Antifa as terrorist organizations and make lynching a national hate crime. Fuel Black farmers and access to healthy foods to address food disparities. Favorable trade deals to bring back manufacturing jobs and help Black contractors, farmers, inventors, and consumers. That would be a huge help, because that speaks to what some folks are doing. They're not interested in building businesses, but they are interested in working for other businesses, right? Defend religious liberty in African American churches that lift the conscience of our nation. If that's what some of those mega churches are supposed to be doing, I would say reach out to the small churches and, talk with those individuals who are right there on the front line. Collaborate with cities and counties to address mental illness and substance abuse. Okay. So there is the talk also in terms of more education opportunities for African Americans, but in the Platinum Plan, I don't see anything about forgiving, debt. I don't see anything about forgiving debt. So you're not going to get very far when you're still paying on debts or your credit is ruined because you couldn't keep up with all the debt from education. So don't see any type of forgiveness or anything in that plan. Okay, so one of the things that I must say is that when we are talking about changing anything in this land, we have to be mindful of the end result, what the future holds. If I move this puzzle piece, is this going to cause the entire puzzle to look like it's not a picture, for instance, right? You're putting together these small pieces of a puzzle, and then you look and you notice that one particular puzzle piece is just not fitting correctly. Can I still force that puzzle piece in that picture, and will it still look presentable? Those of you all who have tried to put jigsaw puzzles together, you know that when you try that sort of thing, by the time you complete the entire puzzle and you look at it, you're like, whoa, wait a minute, that piece doesn't look right. I better take this piece over here that I tried to force and switch the pieces. When we're looking at issues, whether these issues are black, white, red, or yellow, we need to make sure that we're not trying to force things, especially things too quickly without clear instruction, guidance, and unfortunately, so many people do not have a connection to the one true God because they're not Holy Spirit filled. So they're tackling issues without a moral compass. They're tackling issues without being respectful of ethics and how this might impact people in the future. I will tell you, you can't go wrong when you're trying to take an issue that impacts the majority and you're doing it in such a way that uplifts, that forgives the debt. I mean, even the scriptures talk about that sort of thing. You can't go wrong by giving people more money. And then giving them, of course, the plan that goes along with more money to get, the job done or the classes. You see, if you want to build up businesses and you want people to have an entrepreneurial mindset, then make sure that you're offering a free class that goes along with all this money that you plan on dumping in their hands. You see. Because sometimes people are talking about what they're going to do for people. And yes, it's very much there. The opportunities, the resources, the monies. But where are the instructions? And where do I go in order to get the step-by-step plan on how I can be a success? This is where the ball has been dropped time and time again. Going back to what I said in a previous audio about how the most successful, top-notch type of individuals, these are individuals who had supportive individuals around them. They had people who gave them insight as to how they could get some things done. To be at the top, you may have started off doing everything, right? Being the jack of all trades, but the master of none. But then eventually, as the monies are coming in, you can start paying people that are the masters of this specialty and that one to help you in your business endeavors, you see. So in all this planning, I hope and pray that they make things accessible to, the average Joe, and that the verbiage that they use is easy to understand. You see, there's going to have to be some hand holding. Anytime you're talking about, we want to make the streets safe, like in the Platinum Plan. Okay, so then what type of training are you going to give these officers, as well as what type of consequences are they going to have to deal with when they don't follow instructions, when they are creating more problems than they are creating solutions? You see, there's a lot of fine detail that is going to have to be dealt with, but this is a start. It's some issues to start with. I just pray and I hope that individuals will do the right thing. And even if, let's just say, even if both of these individuals, whether they're in office, not in office, or what have you, I would hope that all of us who have heard and read what these administrations are talking about they're going to do, even if they don't do it, I hope that some folks will just take these ideas and start working a plan on their own. Like this person takes the affordable care issue, and they know a lot about the healthcare industry or what have you. So they formulate a group, and then that group educates the public, and then everybody shows up in Washington, and, they sit down and they talk to the people who can move and shake some things. And the next thing you know, here we are, we got a plan, you see. Or somebody who is very good about managing businesses, building businesses, never had a bankruptcy. They just know the system. They know how to get monies and all that they create a plan, a program, something, that once again, folks don't have to pay for, that, just rallies up everybody who has an entrepreneurial mindset as well. And we get the ball rolling. And then, individuals who know a whole lot about, the streets, and they have governed even communities and so forth, that they can be able to come up with a plan and implement that plan and have the necessary training for individuals, and also have the power to hold some people accountable when they screw up, when they're, that rotten fruit on the tree. Then that person can go ahead and, spearhead some things. The key is that people are known for telling you what they're going to do for you until they don't have to tell you any longer what they're going to do for you. Today, the president tells you, or the president-elect, or the vice president, or the senator, or the house, or the member of the House of Representatives, congressmen, just congresswomen. All these people tell you some things, but then once it's no longer beneficial to talk about the issues or what have you, they go away and nothing gets done. So it hurts. It hurts, and so I'm just, once again, the type of individual that I'm like, okay, if this is what people are proposing and this is what people are talking about, then who do we need to reach out to? Who do we need to connect to in order to say, okay, I see what you're trying to do. Now, what is it that I'm supposed to do to help you achieve these goals? Where are the committees? Where are the organizations? Is my voice going to be heard? Who do I need to call? You see? So it is definitely a lot to take in. But we'll see. We'll see. Okay, so the next thing that I want to talk about, in terms of just in general, how to get something started, how to formulate a committee, a group, what does it take? So I'm going to talk in general, but I'm also going to trigger some thoughts in those of you all who are listening, because I do every now and again have people who come through here and they talk about, their plans, what they hope to accomplish in the future and things like that. But how do you take the idea from the paper or from the conversation that you had with a relative or with a coworker and make some things happen? First of all, and I get into some of this when it comes to starting a business. First of all, if you're going to attack any one of these issues, you can see what happened in terms of Black Lives Matter. There's always an individual behind the scenes who is sitting with another individual and they are picking their brain, okay? They're picking their brain in terms of what they know or who they know. They are putting some of their ideas in front of the individual, usually not all of them up front, but they're doing the types of things where there's a discussion that takes place and there's a list of contacts. Well, who do you know? Well, who do you know? Okay, we need to call this person. Well, before we call this person, what is our plan? What is it that we want to do? So you could take a plan like the president's plan, or somebody that you know is into this sort of thing when it comes to activism. You can take any one of those topics and you can build upon that topic. Then once you have all of your information written down, you can be able to sit down and start talking to people who you know are movers and shakers in whatever area that you hope to get some results. Okay. Starting a committee doesn't have to be difficult, but I think that this is a good place to start when you've already talked some more. You've already, picked up the phone. You've already outlined what exactly you hope to accomplish in order to get some things done based on the topic that you've selected. But now you need the committee. You need other people who are willing to work with you. I mean, you could start with your own relatives who think like you, who want to see some change. So your committee could very well be your family members, or it could be your friends, that you haven't spoke to in a long time. And everybody doesn't have to be in the room, and not everybody has to get on planes and go see people, because of course we got Zoom and we got, all these different video services. But I went to mycommittee.com, and mycommittee.com provided information in terms of starting a committee and what do you need. And I think that this is a helpful resource for someone who, I just feel in the spirit, really wants to do something. Just like myself, there are things that I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit back, I'm going to think about what exactly I want to do in terms of my next project, because right now I'm helping out in terms of getting some folks employed. But for my next project, I'm allowing the Lord to lead. But in the meantime, though, once He gives me the information, I know that when it comes to the Lord, it always boils down to networking and reaching out to people at some point. So a starting place for those of you all who are on fire and ready to, proceed with your ideas, and you've got some type of understanding, you've done some research, getting that committee together so that you don't look like you don't know what you're doing. Because I have been one of those observers, and I've sat down and I've looked at how people have run meetings. I have looked at their paperwork that they have shared. I have asked questions during meetings and didn't get answers, especially when folks are having these live calls and conferences and seminars and so forth, and you're asking questions and people are not answering. That is frustrating. And I'll be honest, I usually just say, forget it. I don't want to work with that person. Okay. So before you reach out to people, you want to make sure that you got your own little FAQ. You're interviewing yourself, you're asking questions about your idea, what you propose and so forth, and being prepared to answer. Like, there was one question that I had, which was real simple. What is the process in terms of getting our product, on the website or in your hands? How do I go about doing this? And then somebody else asked that question. Then somebody else asked that question. And the person who was running the meeting never answered our question. Okay. And so if that person eventually did get around to answering the question in future meetings, well, by that point, you already lost me, because you should have been able to tell me exactly what you expected from me while you had my attention. So this committee, or it could be, like I said, just something quite simple over a Zoom call or what have you. But anyway, you want to have a clear purpose. You want to make sure that, according to mycommittee.com, that nothing ruins a committee's efforts like the lack of a meaningful, clearly stated purpose. Without a clearly stated, reasonable set of goals, the committee will not have the focus it needs to be successful. So, for instance, the person who is quite knowledgeable on education, especially how education impacts African Americans. Let's go back to the Platinum Plan. Under the header, Education, African Americans can choose. This is on page 2. Federal, state, and local community partnership to close failing schools to replace with full school choice and education opportunity to put American parents back in control over their children's futures. What is the first question you would ask if the president, was talking to you about this? You would say, well, how do you intend to do that, right? So let's say that this is an issue that ends up being tossed aside, right? He's focused on some other things. What are you going to do in your community in order to make that happen if you're the one who's very knowledgeable on this sort of thing when it comes to African American education and failing schools and parents being able to choose and all of that? How do you intend on making some things happen? So you have your bullet points and you are putting this information together, and you've defined a clear purpose as well as how you intend on getting some things done. So you, as that well-informed leader, which brings me to the next point that is on mycommittee.com. Here's what you're doing. The leader of a committee must realize that the success or failure of that committee rests squarely on his or her shoulders. That's why a lot of folks don't gravitate to my leadership audios and videos, because they don't want to be a leader. They just want to be, in the seat where they take on a supportive role. But if God is in the plan, 9 times out of 10, at some point, you're going to be a leader of some kind of committee before you close your eyes. Whether that committee is small, large, whether you reference that group as a committee or not, at some point, God is going to have you lead over some people, okay? Or lead with some people. Just all depends. The primary duty of the leader is to guide the group's discussions. He or she should encourage every member to do what? Participate in the meetings and keep the discussion focused on the matter at hand. Meetings should start and end as scheduled, and the agenda should be followed. So, one of the things I will tell you that when I've sat with leaders running meetings is that they simply joke way too much. They talk too much about their personal lives. They are encouraging other people to talk about their personal stuff. Not good. Never a good look. Don't fall for that. Even if somebody in the meeting is talking about all their personal business. No. I understand people want to build a rapport, but that is not the time to build up that type of rapport is when there is a clear purpose, there is something that you're trying to get done, and you are calling on people for their opinion on getting that information, or calling on people for them to share their opinion, and then all people want to do is talk about their cat, their dog, their husband, their wife, or whoever. No, you see, because you don't want to waste people's time by letting meetings go over. Okay, you want to get straight to the point. You want to state what it is that you're trying to do. You want to refer back to where you got your information, and give people an opportunity to do a little more research and study some things before they commit to, okay, yes, I can do something. Okay, the leader is also responsible for encouraging opportunities for interactions between the members. Committee members should be provided the opportunity to get to know each other, which is fine, right? Usually that sort of thing takes place just before a meeting where there's donuts and cookies and all that. But now with COVID, people are bringing their own, drinks or snacks. And so there's that opportunity to chit chat beforehand. Or if you're having the Zoom call, you can chit chat before the meeting gets started. Then after the meeting is over, that's another opportunity for people to get to know each other. One particular meeting, the individual just simply gave us all an opportunity to share a little bit about ourselves during the first meeting, which wasn't about issues or anything like that. It was just what they call like a social, a happy hour type of thing over a virtual call, which was great because then this way we were able to, get to know one another. But by the time other meetings showed up, it wasn't necessary to keep with all of the, laid back, happy hour, social mix type of thing. We had issues that needed to be dealt with and people needed to get to work. So, continuing, groups tend to work better if the members are familiar with one another. If members don't get along well, the leader must not allow those members to impede the flow of the meeting. A quick solution is not to allow the conflicting people to sit near each other or in the direct line of fire. And this is where your mute button, when there's a Zoom call going on, is just a blessing in disguise. Now, those who show that they're dedicated and they're willing to go all the way, right? They're willing to support you. They're willing to put their money where their mouth is. These committee members should be carefully selected. These are the people who will help resolve issues. Notice, resolve issues. These are not the ones that's going to keep coming to meetings asking all these different questions, but they're asking questions in a way where it's just to cause conflict, to show up your weaknesses, to just do some just messed up things because maybe they're jealous or because they don't like, certain people, or they just got a bunch of personal issues, mental, physical, whatever. And so they want to take it out on some people. The minute you see this sort of thing show up, you're going to have to end up having a conversation with an individual away from the meeting. And simply put, you can ask them, is there something that's bothering you? Do you feel like this is something that you want to be a part of or not? Give them a way out. These are the people who will help resolve issues for the entire organization, right? These are the dedicated ones that will do some things, and they're not trying to start problems, but those other ones will. They should be somewhat knowledgeable in the area of the committee's responsibility. Members should be a diverse group without being incompatible. Try to recruit people with different perspectives. Remind members that they should be receptive and open to new ideas and other people's opinions, as work is accomplished in a committee through the give and take of an open, uninhibited discussion. Okay, so this is that second piece of the step-by-step process in terms of, okay, I see the issues. For instance, with President Trump's Platinum Plan, I've selected an issue because I'm knowledgeable about that issue. I then add what the solutions are in terms of dealing with that problem. I then go and start connecting with people online or offline with some things that I think might be beneficial. From the meeting, I've learned that there are others who are knowledgeable as well, and some who know even more than me. So these individuals are going to be good in terms of getting the ball rolling. We're going to meet again. We're going to talk about, okay, what more is necessary in order to get what we've discovered, what we've learned in front of people who can actually finance it, or people who could pass some laws. You see, this is how things get started. So I felt like somebody in the spiritual realm was like, I want to do something, but I don't know how to get started. I felt like that as well. And so you've got at least something very simple, something basic, but very powerful to get some things done. So this has been one of those inspirational messages, okay, to move on some of you all. And I hope that whatever topic, it doesn't have to be something political or partisan or bipartisan or what have you. But whatever topic, whatever the Lord puts upon your heart, at least you have some basis, some kind of foundation that you can build upon. And I just pray that the Lord will bless you and bless you some more, because as long as you are trusting in the Lord and you believe that He is going to see you through, I can't see where it's going to be anything more than you going all the way up in whatever your future endeavors might be. I thank you as always for taking time out of your busy schedule to listen. You've been listening to YouTube Enterprise 7. Feel free to like, subscribe, comment. We do welcome giving on this channel, and thank you.